Okay, the Colt Walker 1847 replica pistol. This particular pistol is a Cimarron Arms handgun, and it was made by Uberti in Italy. I believe this is this year's production. This is a brand new one. And like with all guns, they've been making these since the late 50s, and you will find, and other people have, different makers, different manufacturers, and there is some variances, so they may not be the same as this if you find a used one or an old one lying around. So there we have a look at it, and it's a fairly accurate representation. It's pretty well made. Some people don't like the varnished handles, and it does have on the top of the barrel, let's turn that around, reads here Cimarron. Now, what a lot of people don't show you on this older gun is how it compares with, and we'll put here, this is a replica of a Colt 1860, which was a very popular gun in the American Civil War, also 44 caliber. And actually it's a very elegant, well-handling weapon, okay? But as you can see in comparison, the Colt Walker is a beast compared to this pistol. So some of the first differences we can see without taking it apart is the way the wedge is. This, I guess, the way originally the wedge went the opposite way. This is the way the wedge went on later Colt guns, 1851s and that. Also, the pistol does not have this latch here to lock the loading lever, because that was like the first modification they did with the next versions after this, was to put some sort of a latch system in there other than this. And how this worked, I'll get the lever down. What supposedly retained the loading lever was this spring steel latch that's mounted in there. And then when you push this back up, it will lock into place. Okay, but when you fire it with a pretty good charge or fire it, it usually drops the lever down and will jam into a cylinder and lock the gun up. So that's one of the things that was different after this model. Also, if you notice, this 1860 shoots rather well at 25 yards with this huge sight. And if you look at the Walker, it has this little itty bitty sight on there. Well, these pistols were made and the sights were regulated to shoot at 100 yards. So the sights are set for 100 yards. So when shooting close up, that's why these Walkers, if they are true and if their sights have not been modified, if they're true to the original design, are going to shoot very high. And that's why whenever you see these guys make a video telling you that they shoot high. Okay? So let me get these around another way, and we'll look at a side-by-side comparison just to show you the extent of the size difference. Okay, to give you an idea, both of these are on this wooden block up against the front of their trigger guard. The Walker is on the left, and that's the Colt 1860 on the right. And just looking down from this, you see the massive difference in the whole size of everything. The hammer, the receiver, okay, the cylinders, okay, the difference in the size. And you see the wedges are opposite. That wedge is driven out this way, and all the rest of the Colts, the wedge is driven towards the left other than the right. And the Walker has somewhat of like a heavy octagon barrel area, which then goes round. And again, here the difference of the sights are. And this is a much heavier gun. The size of the barrel, everything is way bigger and beefed up more than a Colt 1860. It's a massive weapon. Okay, and like I said in the other video, why they called it a horse pistol is it was designed to shoot at 100 yards, and it was designed to be holstered it was designed to have a holster that attached to a horse's saddle. So the trooper did not carry the gun on his body. It was in part of his saddle rigging, and he would draw it while mounted. You know, that's why they call them dragoon pistols. The smaller gun was one that was worn, I guess that's why they call them belt revolvers. Alright. There we go from the other side. Like I said, massive, massive pistols. So I think now we'll do a little demonstration with the Walker, and we'll take them apart and look at the cylinders and stuff side by side. Alright, I got a little ahead of myself. We'll take a look at this, and we're going to test something before we get into disassembling it. So, much like the originals, a lot of the older designs of Colt are retained. And that is where these cylinder stops are oval. The old style oval cylinder stops, instead of the kind of squared out ones, they have a notch like a modern revolver. You'll see that, I think it's the second or third model Dragoon where they changed it, if you get into these. And we have our old style loading lever without a catch, so I'm probably going to do a period correction instead of grinding on this. I know the duelist says file it or whatever. Nah, I'm going to get a piece of leather and tie it around the barrel, have something that slips over to hold it in place. That's going to be Koba's fix. Okay, the action, the fit, the finish, and quality of this gun is pretty good, at least to me. I mean, the action's fine. This one you got to watch out. You can tap that wedge in too far in the adjustment screw to where this will bind up. Okay, which is probably part of the design of the original design, a design flaw or feature of the original design. So now the big question everyone asks. I don't think Pieta makes these, just Birdie makes them. And that is, will our conical bullets fit into this area here, or are we going to have to modify the gun? Because actually, probably what I will end up doing is firing the conical bullets in this more than the round ball. Okay. And also, speaking of bullets and errors gone bullet molds, and Mark Hubs, I believe, Hubes, that runs it, he bought an older one of these by San Marco or whatever, an older one, and it's something he knows about. He knows these guns much better than me. Is the twist rate is different. One is, I don't know, you have to watch his video, but they changed the twist rate, and this more modern version from this company has a different twist rate than an older version will. So that will affect the accuracy of your bullet depending on the type of bullet you use. So that's something to be aware of. Okay, and we'll see what what this comes out with. Also, like I said, the reason I liked buying the newer guns is, if you can see in here, down in there, I don't know if you can see it, we'll look at it once I get it apart. This pistol, unlike my 1851 Navy, has, the whole cylinder has 6 of these stops on there. This only has 1 stop on it. And what you would do with that is, again, that notch down in the hammer, you would bring this around to where that pin is and lower this down to where it locks safely. Okay, and I believe because in a lot of European countries, these are the only guns you can own. So they put this more of a modern, I don't know if the originals had those pins in there. It was part of the original Colt design. I know a lot of the Italian-made copies do not have this type of a safety in there. So people carry it with just 5 cylinders loaded. But this one does, which I like. I like that on there. Because I can load to 6 and have the gun safe till I go up to the firing line. Alright, so now let's answer the question, will my conical bullets fit in here without modification? Okay, the first one up is the Johnston & Dow Era's Gone bullet mold. That's the bullet there. And yes, this ram is set up to where it will not flatten the points of the bullet. So let's try spinning it around. You can see it's cut out. But if you look, when we go around with it, it hits on this side. It's kind of like they machined it so up against the barrel where I had trouble with the 1860 and I had to cut a lot of material out. But it's hitting here, so this side of the bullet area here, this opening, has to be widened. Okay? And that's the Johnston & Dow bullet. Let me get it out. So up here, the 2 bullets I have in 44, I have the Johnston & Dow bullet, then I have the Dragoon bullet, which I also bought this mold from Era's Gone before they're sold out. Because I wanted to see the difference, and the Dragoon's obviously huge. I don't really think you couldn't get much powder behind this damn thing in 1860, so it's for these horse pistols. So we're going to see if this bullet fits in there. Okay, there we go. We got it dropped in. And when we spin it around, again it hits. And this hits pretty good. It's hitting up the whole length here on there. So we're going to have to go and take some material off. I only believe it's the one side. If you see on the other side, it's clear. They did something. So let's take a look at that. We'll take the gun apart and we'll take a look at what we're going to have to do here. Now we got the 2 handguns disassembled. Just look at the massive difference between the 1860 and that size of the wedge, everything. Gigantic. And also, if you look, there's a little scalloper cut out here on the receiver down in here. I believe that's so that the cap can fall off. And the Walker does not have that cutout up in there. Up in here. So this is just like the original, and I believe a lot of people have trouble with the caps getting stuck in there. Now, look at the difference in the cylinders side by side. I mean, massive difference. Huge difference in there. So that's going to be something interesting. Now, as for this barrel cutout, if you kind of look in here, when you look from the top, what they did, they took an end mill and made a sweeping cut. But when they did that, they didn't come back and come across. Okay? So this edge here is sharp. We're going to have to flatten this down all the way up there. And really, I don't think I have to take much off. But I'm going to have to cut this edge here back, and then I'll be able to get my conical bullets in there, because that's what I intend to shoot in this more than anything. So there's your differences, and we'll see how all of this comes out. As far as the modifying this loading area here in the frame, I'll do that in a separate video. But I just thought it'd be neat to compare these disassembled side by side to show you the massive difference between the two guns. Right there. It's pretty wild. I like it. Well, that's about it. There's a lot of people that review this pistol and do some videos. I tried to make mine a little bit different and do a side-by-side comparison with another known model. So I hope you enjoyed it, and the next one will be me modifying that edge there. Okay. Stay tuned, guys.